Welcome to Cyber Threat Intel, your go-to source for the latest updates, news, and insights on cyber threats. Our goal is to arm you with the knowledge to protect yourself in the digital age, whether you're a cybersecurity professional or just curious about the threats lurking in the digital shadows. Make sure to subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast listening platform to join us on the front lines of cybersecurity, because in the world of cyber threats, knowledge is power. Welcome. This is Cyber Threat Intel. I'm your host, John Good. This is episode number 32. And it is Thursday, May 9th, 2024. If this is the first time that you're joining the show, welcome. Glad to have you here. If you're returning, glad to see you back. Now, if you need to grab a snack or a drink or something to get you through the content, make sure you run and go do that real quick and then come back to the rest of the content. But with that being said, let's go ahead and flip over my screen and get into the content. All right, so first article here, Matter is now racing ahead, but the platforms are holding it back. The latest Matter spec brings a number of improvements to the smart home standard founded by Apple, Google, Amazon, and Samsung. Released this week by the Connectivity Standards Alliance, Matter 1.3 brings support for more appliances, including ovens and cooktops, adds energy and waste management, or water management rather, and introduces new features for Matter's universal casting protocol that could be a competitor to AirPlay and Google Cast. With the addition of these new device types, Matter now supports most of your home's major appliances, along with gadgets like smart locks, lights, shades, thermostats, and a variety of other smart home sensors. So this is pretty interesting as far as with IoT devices and all of these connected devices that we have in the world today, right? We've seen other kind of standards or other groups try to formulate standards as far as what these devices should have, security standards, security requirements, those kinds of things, right? And we see this a lot with all kinds of technology, is this idea where some new piece of technology comes out or new protocol, and then there's this kind of shift where everybody decides, okay, well, this is the standard we're going to go with, and we all need to get on board with that standard. And then eventually you start seeing things like the IP stack, right? Where everybody is using the same kind of technology or same kind of verbiage or terms or, all of those kinds of things so that they can communicate with each other. So let's continue on the article here. While there are plenty of smart devices in the above categories, and they list a bunch of categories above, that may work with one or more smart home platforms today, you often need to use products from one manufacturer or one ecosystem to get the most functionality. So this is kind of where you start to run into those issues, right? You can't go get a device from Google and a device from Apple, in a lot of cases have them communicate with each other or talk to each other, work with each other, because they're using different protocols, right? And that's just an example, right? It could be any two different manufacturers that are adopting or using two different standards because they just don't talk to each other. And again, we've seen this play out over history with other technologies and other things that exist, right? Like that idea is not new, but especially with these IoT devices, we need more standards because a lot of the products, frankly, that are coming out are not secure. There are just issues with them in general. And so the more we push towards that standardized platform, standardized requirements, those kinds of things, the better off that we're going to be, right? All right, so let's keep moving here. Next article, UK government urges caution over blaming China for Ministry of Defense breach. Britain's Defense Minister, Grant Shapps, urged caution on Tuesday following reports that China was suspected of hacking a third-party payment system used by the armed forces. Several reports followed repeating that China was suspected of being behind an attempt to compromise the network of a contractor called SSCL, which operates completely separate from the MOD's own systems, responsible for payments to regular and reservist personnel, as well as some veterans. So we talked about this in a previous episode. It was actually yesterday's episode where we were talking about this breach. In a statement to the House of Commons on Tuesday, Shapps said up to 272,000 service personnel may have been impacted by the incident, but the initial investigations, and this is a quote, have found no evidence that any data has been removed. So they're saying, we don't see anything that indicates that is the case, right? They don't say that they definitely know that, but they're saying that is what they are seeing, right? He stressed there was evidence of potential failings by the contractor, which may have made it easier for the malign actor to gain entry, and that a full investigation into the contractor has been launched to determine these failings and minimize the risk of similar incidents in the future. There's a quote here. It says, "For reasons of national security, we can't release further details of the suspected cyber activity behind this incident. However, I can confirm to the House that we do have indications that this was the suspected work of a malign actor, and we cannot rule out state involvement," said Shaps. So state involvement would be like a government involvement, China, something like that, right? So definitely when anything happens to a government's service members or the systems that are around that, for one, there's going to be specific requirements as far as how to secure those systems, right? If you're in the United States and you're dealing with Department of Defense or the government or anything like that, there are very specific requirements. Typically, they're centered around things like the NIST risk management framework and a lot of the NIST standards that exist. But other governments are going to have similar kinds of things, right? Because they want to make sure that stuff is protected, make sure that people are doing due diligence, due care, all of those kinds of things for their programs or for their systems and networks and technology, right? So I'm sure it's no different here. But we've even seen in the United States contractors with the government, with the U.S. government being breached and having issues. There was a huge issue several years ago with the clearance system and OPM in the United States for people that get security clearances and the systems that store all that information. And they had a bunch of contractors that were breached as well. So this is not new, right? A lot of governments, especially that are going after other governments, like to go for these kinds of systems because they can reveal a lot about people. And obviously, this is more like payroll kind of systems. But if people aren't getting paid, that's a huge issue. So even in just a normal company, you have to protect these payment systems. You have to make sure that they're operational and that issues aren't going to happen if you have a breach or something, because if people aren't getting paid, people will stop working eventually. So very important. Next article here, patient appointments imperiled by cyber attack on French radiologists. Cordeau Magniscan, a French company that provides medical radiology imaging, has warned patients it is currently dealing with a cyber attack that risks complicating their appointments. It follows the AlphaV ransomware group last year attempting to extort a healthcare network in the United States by publishing photographs of breast cancer patients. There's a quote here. It says, "Investigations are underway by our IT team mobilized and accompanied by recognized experts in cybersecurity," the company stated. So whenever a company gets breached, typically the thing that you're going to do in a lot of cases is bring some kind of expert team or outside consulting firm or government or something like that to help analyze what happened, right? You want to do a forensics investigation and really understand what the root cause was, why they were able to do what they did, what did they really do, what did they access, all those kinds of things, right? Because if you can recreate that story and really understand what happened, that helps you not only understand what happened in this situation, but it also helps you with lessons learned and how you can improve your program. So it's very, very crucial to do that. But then also think about that. What happens if your main system goes down, right? Critical systems, your appointment booking system, right? If you cannot have customers book appointments, what are you going to do? Are you still able to take appointments? Are you still able to make money? Right? That's a huge risk for companies if their critical systems go down where they can't even make money, right? It is not clear how many patients and appointments may be affected by the attack, which is the latest to impact the healthcare sector in France. So yeah, we've seen a lot of healthcare issues going on and a lot of healthcare companies being breached, attacked, all those kinds of things, especially lately, right? We've seen like United Healthcare and Change Group and all those recently having issues that we've talked about on this show, right? There's been some definite recent activity in the healthcare industry, not just in France and the United States, and kind of all over, frankly. All right, next article here. Chinese network behind one of the world's largest online scams. More than 800,000 people in Europe and the US appear to have been duped into sharing card details and other sensitive personal data with a vast network of fake online designer shops apparently operated from China. An internal investigation by The Guardian, Desiet, and Le Monde gives a rare inside look at the mechanics of what the UK's Chartered Trading Standards Institute has described as one of the largest scams of its kind, with 76,000 fake websites created. 76,000 fake websites, that's quite a bit, right? Operating on an industrial scale, programmers have created tens of thousands of fake shops offering discounted goods from Dior, Nike, Lacoste, Hugo Boss, Versace, and Prada, as well as many other premium brands. So we see a lot of people out there that are going to these websites where they can get these premium products at a discounted price, usually, right? And that's kind of the lure as far as why people want to go to these websites, because they want to get a Prada bag that's normally like $5,000 for like $500, right? That's kind of the whole deal. But and then they have obviously like the knockoff websites and stuff like that too. But this is kind of a real thing where the internet has just enabled this kind of thing because it is so easy to create a website. You can go out there and create a WordPress blog like that, right? And some of these hosting platforms, you can just create hundreds and hundreds and thousands of these things under like one account. You may need a new domain name or something like that, but if it costs you like $15 to get a domain name, and then you're making even just double that, you're already making your money back. If you're making 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times that, or more, well, then that obviously is a lucrative endeavor, I guess. The first fake shops in the network appear to have been created in 2015, so they've been doing this a while. More than 1 million orders have been processed in the past 3 years alone, according to the analysis of the data. Catherine Hart, a lead officer at the Chartered Trading Standards Institute, described the operation as, and this is quote, one of the largest online fake shop scams that I've seen, she added. Often these people are part of serious and organized crime groups, so they're harvesting data and may use it against people later, making consumers more susceptible to phishing attempts. And that's one of the dangers as a consumer and as just a company, right? What happens if your products are ending up on these kinds of websites or being advertised on these websites? How do you notify your customers? How do you make sure that your brand is legitimized so people know that you are not using these websites as like an outlet, right? Sometimes you have these outlet malls where they sell discounted products and things like that, but you have to make it very clear with your branding that you're not associated to these so people don't get tricked. And like it said, I mean, they're going to use this data later for sure against these people, which is unfortunate, but that is how it works, right? Next article, new Spectre style Pathfinder attack targets Intel CPU, leak encryption keys and data. Researchers have discovered 2 novel attack methods targeting high-performance Intel CPUs could be exploited to stage a key recovery attack against the Advanced Encryption Standard AES algorithm. Techniques have been collectively dubbed Pathfinder by a group of academics from the University of California, San Diego, Purdue University, UNC Chapel Hill, which is North Carolina, Georgia Institute of Technology, so Georgia Tech, and Google. The quote here says, Pathfinder allows attackers to read and manipulate key components of the branch predictor, enabling 2 main types of attacks, reconstructing program control flow history and launching high-resolution Spectre attacks. Hossein Yarzadeh, not sure if that's how you say it, but the lead author of the paper said in a statement shared with the Hacker News. Now, if you don't know what Spectre is in general, Spectre is the name given to a class of side channel attacks that exploit branch prediction and speculative execution on modern CPUs to read privileged data in the memory in a manner that sidesteps isolation protections between applications. So Spectre attacks were really popular in the news a couple years ago. So not that long ago, there was a lot of news about this. Initially, that's kind of the first time we started hearing about Spectre. And it was a big deal, right? It still is a big deal. Now, with this one in particular, one of the key issues is it can inadvertently expose confidential data, right? Anytime you can expose confidential data on a system that shouldn't be exposed, that's a serious issue. And one of the downsides with this vulnerability in general, right, is like you as a consumer or you as a business, you're not going to go fix your CPU, right? Like, what are you going to do? You can't fix that. So you're kind of at the mercy of Intel and the vendor to release a fix, right? Like, especially if you have a whole bunch of computers and you're probably not going to change your buying patterns of your computers just because of something like this, like Spectre, right? Honestly, in a lot of cases, unless it's like something massive like this, just never going to get fixed, you're probably not going to change your buying patterns anyways of your hardware, right? All right, next article, Lockbit claims attack on Wichita as city struggles with payment issues, airport disruption. So we talked about this the other day as well for the city of Wichita. On the same day that the Lockbit ransomware gang's leader was publicly named by U.S. law enforcement agencies, the group took credit for a devastating attack on the city of Wichita. So we talked about this Lockbit ransomware gang's leader being announced or being named yesterday in the episode. This Kansas City, not to be confused with Kansas City, but this city in Kansas first announced the incident on Sunday, and since then it has caused a cascade of problems from shutting off the Wi-Fi and departure screens at the local airport to forcing all city-run organizations to revert to cash payments. That's obviously a serious issue. Lockbit added the city to its leak site on Tuesday, giving officials until May 15th to pay an undisclosed ransom. Now, officials provided more clarity on how the ransomware attack is affecting Wichita city services on Monday evening, writing that citizens will need to use cash for any services facilitated by the government. So in today's world, that's a huge issue, especially in countries like the United States. Cash is still being used, right, across the board, but a lot of organizations aren't structured in a way where they can handle as much cash as they used to, right? Like 100 years ago, it was all cash. 50 years ago, it was all cash, right? Like you didn't have a credit card where you just ran to the store and you paid for whatever you needed to do. A lot of people have gone to things like online banking with credit card or online payments with credit cards, online banking too, but paying in general a lot of things with credit cards. And so now you might not have cash processes in place. And as a business, how does that impact you, right? Like, what is your alternative way of taking payment? Can you take cash, right? Like, do you have that ability? Are you only credit cards, right? We see some of these companies that literally say credit card only, no cash, right? Cashless. So definitely a concern, especially with government, right? The city pledged to not shut off the water for those who are unable to pay with cash or checks. So they're giving some leeway here. City council members will not be streamed online. Meetings will not be streamed online, and Wi-Fi at some library locations has been affected. Officials warned that there may be other technological issues and with government systems for the time being. So again, that's kind of a process that you have in place is you make the decision that you're going to allow people some leeway if they can't pay with cash or checks, because frankly, it sounds like they aren't set up to take that many cash payments, right? Where they understand that people are not going to be able to do cash payments in a lot of cases because a lot of people use credit cards, right? So that's just how it is. But certainly an interesting article. Really, all the articles today were pretty interesting, especially the Lockbit ones, right? The Lockbit ones, that stuff is getting pretty interesting. So we'll see how that plays out, and we'll see if they actually, are able to catch the leader, right? Because that's kind of the issue. They named him, and then now they have to track him down. But they're offering, I think it was $10 million in the article it said yesterday. So we'll see, right? So anyways, that's the last article for today. Again, this is Cyber Threat Intel. I'm your host, John Good. This is episode number 32, and it is Thursday, May 9th, 2024. Glad to have you here. Hope you keep coming back for the future episodes, and I'll see you in the next one. See you later. Are you tired of overpaying for cybersecurity training? Are you interested in training from industry professionals? Are you looking for cybersecurity career services? If you answered yes to any of those questions, then cybertrainingpro.com is the perfect platform for you. At Cyber Training Pro, we're a one-stop shop for all your cybersecurity needs. We can train you for industry certifications or just improve your overall knowledge and skills in a certain area. Unlike other platforms, we don't stop there. We can also coach you throughout your career, practice your interview skills, or create a high-performing resume with our career services. Cybertrainingpro.com isn't just another training platform. Students get exclusive access to our private community where we go beyond training courses to provide additional content, tips and tricks, and engagement with both other students and staff. Look, by the year 2025, there could be as many as 3.5 million job openings in cybersecurity. With so much opportunity, why not maximize your career potential with a platform that cares about your success? Come join us at cybertrainingpro.com and start building your future today.